Before we look at a chart of Bitcoin, something interesting that I saw on Twitter, which Ted Zhang posted, and he's a good follow on Twitter if you're into the FinTwit space, is if you go on Google Trends and you search a term like how to buy Bitcoin or something a novice trader would search once they hear the news that Bitcoin hit all-time highs. As you see, it's all over CNBC, New York Times, Bloomberg. The retail sentiment of Bitcoin is pretty much at all-time lows, just starting to curl up now that that news has dropped. I'm going to show you how I got into Bitcoin before all-time highs, how you could have got in, and does Bitcoin have more room to go? Let's look at a chart of Bitcoin. Let me first, really quick, look at this a position I just opened, make sure the world's not ending. Okay, cool. So this chart, in all of my years of studying charts, is one of the most bullish charts I've ever seen. It's basically just a multi-year cup with handle chart pattern, and that's a classic Bill O'Neill chart pattern that basically just means a series of higher highs, higher lows, price goes sideways and reaches new all-time highs. I don't like to use chart patterns necessarily. I don't like labeling them because I like to actually interpret the price action inside of them. However, for the sake of communication, it's a cup with handle. Now, let's go on a daily time frame and let's do a day by day, play by play analysis. Let's go to November. And this is when Trump got elected. And I remember participating in this move. Price went up 57% because the election was deemed a pro crypto event. And price comes up, dances around, but it actually hits 114,000 twice. And that's going to turn into a key level for us shortly. So, and then what happened was Trump went on the news. He held up a whiteboard with all the tariff numbers, and pretty much uncertainty in the markets creates fear, and then people they start selling out of everything. And so, even crypto right here, or Bitcoin rather, got sold off. We can call that about a 32% drop. But here's the thing, if you know how to utilize trends and you know how to read trends, this was just another higher low on the higher time frame, right? So there's really no reason to become bearish. And I don't like the term bullish and bearish, but once again, I'm going to use them for the sake of communication. There's no reason to turn bearish on Bitcoin. It's just another higher low, right? This was the crash right here, and it's just making another series of higher highs and higher lows. And so let's go to the daily. Let's remove all these drawings, and I'm going to put on my moving averages. And so price rallies back up and it rebounds about 48%. And once again, for the third time, it hits that 114,000 level, right? And so whenever price hits something three times, it sort of turns into a psychological level. It's now a key level. And what I was looking for here was a pullback with the anticipation of taking out all-time highs, moving above this 114,000 level, which of course it did. And now I didn't try to predict that. I was simply anticipating it and anticipating on it happening and then waiting to take advantage of it. I think trading is all about waiting for the right pitch. And then once you get the right pitch, taking a swing and taking a big swing. And so what we get is price moves up, it pulls back. And at these points right here that I'll circle, that's institutional accumulation buying on weakness, right? Institutions have so much size that they need to buy, and so they need sellers to counteract their buying, right? They buy on weakness. I buy on strength after the weakness, after the trend and the auction house has shown its hand, which I'm going to show you um, on these smaller time frames as we zoom in. I view the market as an auction house of buyers and sellers, and I look to participate whenever there's an imbalance in either direction, and that can be up or down. So as you see, price comes down to 100,000 and once again makes another higher low. And the reason why this is of course significant is that that's a smaller higher low in what's overall just been massive higher lows on bigger time frames, right? We're aligning all time frames. This is how you get good trades and how you can make money trading is aligning all the time frames. And so a tool I like to use is the Anchored VWAP. Now, Brian Shannon over at Alpha Trends wrote a really, really good book on the Anchored VWAP. Basically, what it is, and I recommend everybody read that. Basically, what it is it's a tool that measures all transactions from a specific point at which you anchor. So if I anchor the VWAP right here, and then price takes out that VWAP, I guess you could call it sort of like an interception or an intersection right here. It takes out that VWAP. That means since this point on the chart, buyers are now in control from this point. And the reason that that's useful is because we're utilizing that after a higher low has been established. And now we're using that to pinpoint an entry when buyers are in control, right? Once again, we're not trying to make predictions. I don't have any expectations. I'm simply just looking at the auction house itself and when there's an imbalance of buyers and sellers and when those buyers or sellers are in control. And so a stop loss, and now this is not right here a trade that I took. I participated on Wednesday, which I'll show next. You could have put your stop loss right here at this low. And the reason for that is because price came up. If it were to come down and take out that stop loss, this trend now would have been invalidated. And of course, as you know, or as I hope you know, is you don't want to be in any instrument that is not trending in your favor. You're just losing money for no reason at that point. But here's the thing, I understand some people have very high time frames. They're investors. Maybe you're a Bitcoin investor. And then at that point, I would agree with you, but that's only because the overall trend of the asset is higher, right? If it was going down and you're holding Bitcoin, I would think you're a bit of a fool personally. And I can actually also show you, I do have a position in Bitcoin. Let me show you that. Let me show you my broker statement. I played it through IBIT, which is a stock ETF, and my cost was 62.7, and that's on Interactive Brokers. Anyway, let's resume the Bitcoin analysis, and I'll show you where I got in. So let me go to the 4-hour. So once again, higher lows get established, and then at this point, I see another higher low get established. I'm putting my anchored VWAP at this swing high, and then once I see buyers take control at New York session open at around 10 a.m., I was buying Bitcoin right here. This is where I was in Bitcoin. Maybe make that a little bit clearer. I was buying Bitcoin right around here. I was putting my stop loss right around here because once again, if price came down and hit my stop loss, the trend now would have been invalidated, right? I'm not trying to predict at all. I'm aligning all time frames, all trends, and basically analyzing the auction house, right? That's what I'm doing. And so now price rallies up into all-time highs. And here's the thing. It's actually pulled back quite a bit since then. As you can see, it went up to 123 and it's came down to 117. I actually hope it does come back more. And so then it can start building up the right side again and then coming back up. And then I'm going to be using the same things that I always do. I'm going to be using the anchored VWAP tool. Maybe we can anchor a VWAP right here at this swing high. And then once price intercepts that anchored VWAP and buyers are in control, I'll place my stop loss at the low because if price were to fail and come down to my stop loss, then the trend would be invalidated, right? Really, life probably is 75% utilizing the right tools, right? If you don't have the right tools, you can't build a house. And if you're not using the right tools in trading, you're certainly not going to make money. You're probably going to lose money, and you're probably going to lose all of your money, to be honest, because it's that strenuous and that difficult. It takes a couple hundred hours, but probably a couple thousand hours, to be honest. But once you get it, it's something that you can do over and over again for life and take advantage of really, really good opportunities in the market. Now, I'm not a crypto guy, but This was a really, really good pitch that I had to take a swing on. I don't care if Bitcoin goes to $1 million or if Bitcoin goes to $0. I'm simply just a trader. My job's to make money, not necessarily be right. I don't care. I don't care what Bitcoin does or what any asset does. I'm trying to read the auction house and participate when there's an imbalance and a trend. Um, and so I'll do like a quick third grade drawing of sort of what's happening psychologically. Um, Bitcoin is sort of made all-time highs here, and Bitcoin's made all-time highs, and the overall sentiment of Bitcoin is pretty much at an all-time low, just starting to curl up. And what that means is money is going to start flowing into Bitcoin because the news has just come out that Bitcoin is at all-time highs. Now, Bitcoin happens to be an instrument that can be greatly influenced by retail money. Most financial instruments, I'd say, are 75% institutional and big money. It's not Uncle Joe and Aunt Samantha that's putting in billions of dollars of money, millions of hundreds of millions and billions of dollars into assets, right? It's BlackRock, Fidelity, mutual funds. It's big money. However, Bitcoin, since people don't necessarily trust the US dollar, as we can see, we'll bring up a chart of the US dollar. Money is flowing out of the US dollar going into things like Bitcoin. I can even pull up a euro chart. The euro has been pumping. And, people don't trust the US government. They don't trust the national debt crisis, and they want an alternative form of currency, right? And it does make sense, but once again, that doesn't matter if we're not pinpointing our entry and utilizing technical analysis. The best trades happen when we're combining macroeconomical factors, sentiment, fundamental data, and technical data, right? And you got to use all of them if you want to make the most gains. And so once again, I don't care if Bitcoin goes to 200K, a million. Could it go to 200K? Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. But once again, I don't have necessarily an an expectation of that. This is just any other trade for me. This is already a break-even trade for me that I'm up on. If I get stopped out at pull up my IBIT chart. If price comes down to 62.7 on the IBIT chart, then I'll be at a break even. So that was just a quick analysis of Bitcoin. Hopefully that was somewhat informative.